I'll be honest, this story still makes my stomach turn because I did not lose my money to some obvious stranger with broken English and a fake sob story. I lost it to a man who knew exactly how to sound like the answer to every lonely prayer I had never admitted saying out loud. The first message came on a Tuesday night while I was sitting at my kitchen table in Mesa, Arizona, eating cold leftover pasta from a plastic container, wearing the same gray sweatshirt I had slept in the night before, and pretending I was perfectly fine with the silence in my house. My daughter, Lily, was upstairs doing homework with her earbuds in. My divorce papers had been final for almost 2 years, and I had spent most of that day at the dental office smiling at patients who complained about copays, crowns, and insurance approvals, while privately wondering how many more years of my life would pass with nobody asking whether I had made it home safely. That sounds dramatic when I say it now, but back then it felt ordinary, like a quiet kind of hunger I had learned to live with, the kind that does not scream for attention, but still changes the way you answer when someone suddenly treats you like you matter. His name on Facebook was Daniel Whitmore, and his profile picture showed a handsome man in his mid-40s standing near the water, wearing a navy button-down shirt, with silver at his temples and a smile that looked warm without looking too polished. His message was simple, respectful, almost boring in the way that made it feel safe. Hi, Rebecca. I hope this isn't strange, but your comment on that article about raising teenagers really stayed with me. You seem like someone with a kind heart. I stared at that sentence longer than I should have, because after years of being called emotional, difficult, dramatic, too sensitive, too suspicious, and too much by a man who once promised to love me forever, the phrase kind heart landed somewhere deep inside me, in a place I thought had hardened over. I did not answer right away. I clicked his profile, scrolled through his photos, checked his friends, looked at his posts, and told myself I was being careful because I had heard all the warnings about online strangers and fake accounts. And I was not some naive teenager who believed every handsome man with a Bible verse and a sunset photo. His page looked normal enough to pass my first inspection. He had pictures from job sites, a few posts about missing home, a photo of what looked like his late mother, and several comments from people who called him brother, sir, and my good friend, which seemed a little formal, but not strange enough to scare me away. According to his profile, he was originally from Colorado, divorced, no children, and working as a civil engineer on a private contract in Dubai, which sounded impressive enough to be interesting and distant enough to explain why we could not accidentally run into each other at Target or the grocery store. I typed 3 different replies, deleted all of them, then finally wrote, "Thank you, that's nice of you to say." I expected that to be the end of it. Instead, he wrote back almost immediately, as if he had been waiting with his phone in his hand. It is rare to see a mother speak with so much patience. Your daughter is lucky. That should have made me pause, because he had moved from a public comment to my daughter in less than 5 minutes, but he said it with such gentleness that I did not feel invaded. I felt seen. And that was the first door I opened. Over the next few days, Daniel did not flirt in the cheap way I expected online men to flirt, and he did not ask for pictures, did not call me beautiful every 5 seconds, did not make dirty jokes, and did not push me to move faster than I wanted. He asked about my work, my commute, my favorite coffee, whether I liked rain, whether Lily was applying to colleges, whether I missed being married, and whether I still believed a woman could be loved properly after being disappointed badly. That last question stayed with me. I remember sitting in my car outside the dental office after closing, the Arizona sun dropping behind the strip mall, the windows still hot from the day, and my thumb hovering over the keyboard while I tried to decide whether to lie like a normal person or answer like someone who was tired of pretending. I told him I did not know. He replied, "Then maybe life has not finished surprising you." I laughed when I read it, but not because it was funny. I laughed because it had been so long since anyone said something tender to me without following it with a complaint, a demand, a criticism, or a reminder of everything I had failed to be. By the end of the first week, I was waking up to his messages before my alarm went off, and even though I told myself it was harmless, I started checking my phone before I checked the weather, before I brushed my teeth, before I remembered that real life had bills, laundry, deadlines, and a daughter who still needed me grounded. Good morning, Rebecca. I hope today is gentle with you. That was one of his first messages. Another said, I looked at the sky tonight and wondered if you could see the same moon. I know how that sounds now. I know it sounds like something printed inside a cheap romance card at a gas station, but when your heart has been living on scraps, even a rehearsed sentence can feel like a feast if it arrives at the right moment. Lily noticed before I admitted anything to myself. She walked into the kitchen one Saturday morning while I was smiling at my phone over my coffee, and she stopped near the refrigerator with that sharp teenage look that could slice through any lie before I even started speaking. Who are you texting? No one, I said too quickly. She raised one eyebrow, opened the fridge, and said, You're smiling like someone's mom in a medication commercial. I told her it was just a Facebook friend, someone from a parenting discussion group, and even as I said it, I felt a small pinch of shame because I was already editing the truth to make it sound smaller than it felt. That was the second door I opened. The third came 2 nights later, when Daniel asked if we could talk on the phone. I almost said no because messages were safe, messages could be controlled, messages let me pause before answering, but a phone call meant a real voice, real silence, real risk. And maybe the humiliation of discovering that the man I had imagined was not the man on the other end. When his call came through Messenger, my hands actually shook. His voice was deeper than I expected, calm and warm, with a slight accent I could not place, though he explained it before I asked, saying he had spent years working overseas with crews from different countries and had picked up strange edges in the way he spoke. We talked for 46 minutes. I know the exact time because I stared at the call log afterward like it was evidence of something important. He did not sound rushed, distracted, or fake, and when I told him about my divorce, he did not interrupt with advice, did not blame me, did not ask what I had done wrong, and did not say the cruel little sentence people love to say when they want your pain to be convenient. Well, there are 2 sides to every story. Instead, he said, You deserved softness, Rebecca, and I am sorry nobody protected that in you. I cried after we hung up. Not loud crying, not the kind that shakes your whole body, just silent tears rolling down my face while I sat on the edge of my bed in the dark, ashamed of how badly I needed those words from a man I had never met. That night, before I fell asleep, he sent one more message. I feel something with you that I have not felt in years, but I need you to understand my life is complicated right now. I read that sentence twice, then 3 times. Something in my chest tightened because complicated can mean many things when a man says it, and every woman who has been hurt learns to fear the space between a soft voice and a hidden truth. I typed, What do you mean complicated? The 3 little dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. And when his answer finally came, it was not romantic, it was not gentle, and it was not the kind of message that belongs at the beginning of a love story. It was the first warning bell. Before I explain, I need to know one thing, he wrote. Can I trust you not to tell anyone? When Daniel wrote, Can I trust you not to tell anyone? I should have closed the message, put the phone face down on my nightstand, and reminded myself that honest people do not usually begin serious conversations by asking you to keep secrets from the people who love you. But I did not close it. I sat there in the dark with the blue light from my phone washing over my hands, and I felt that old, dangerous feeling rise in me, the one I had confused with love during my marriage, the feeling that someone wounded had chosen me, trusted me, needed me. And maybe, if I was careful enough, patient enough, and loyal enough, I could finally be the woman who made everything safe. So I wrote back, You can trust me. The moment I sent it, I felt a strange mix of pride and fear, because I had given a man I barely knew a promise I had not even discussed with myself. Daniel waited almost a full minute before answering, and in that pause, my mind filled the silence with every possibility, from a dangerous job to a sick family member to a complicated divorce that was not really finished. When his message finally appeared, it sounded serious enough to make me sit up straighter. He told me the company he was working for in Dubai had run into a legal dispute with a subcontractor, and because he was the lead engineer on the project, his name had been pulled into temporary paperwork while lawyers sorted everything out. He said it was not criminal, not exactly, and he kept repeating that part, as if he knew the word alone would scare me. "It is a business problem, Rebecca, not a character problem," he wrote. That sentence stayed with me because it sounded polished, almost prepared, but at the time I told myself he was just a careful man who had spent years explaining complicated things to people who misunderstood him. He said he could not talk publicly about the dispute, could not post details online, could not tell coworkers he was emotionally involved with someone in the States, and definitely could not have screenshots of private business matters floating around. I asked why he was telling me any of this if it was so sensitive. He replied, "Because I do not want to build something with you on silence." That was the kind of answer that made suspicion feel almost cruel. I wanted to believe him because believing him made me feel chosen, and doubting him made me feel cold, damaged, and unfair, like my ex-husband had broken something in me so badly that I could no longer recognize a good man standing right in front of my heart. For the next few days, Daniel became more present, not less, and that is one of the things people do not understand about manipulation unless they have lived inside it. It does not always begin with pressure. Sometimes it begins with consistency. Every morning, before I even reached for my glasses, there was a message waiting for me, and every night, after I finished checking Lily's homework or folding laundry on the couch, he would call and ask about the smallest parts of my day with a tenderness that made ordinary things feel important. He remembered that one of my patients had yelled at me over a denied insurance claim, and the next morning he asked if she had apologized. He remembered that Lily had a chemistry test, and he wished her luck, though I never told Lily that because something about it felt too intimate. He remembered that I hated cilantro, loved peach iced tea, and still kept a broken ceramic mug from a vacation I took before my marriage fell apart. My ex-husband, Mark, had forgotten my birthday twice. Daniel remembered that my left knee hurt when it rained. That kind of attention is dangerous when you have been starving for basic care, because it starts to feel like proof, and once you mistake attention for proof, you stop asking why someone is working so hard to study you. Lily did not like it. She did not say that directly at first, because teenagers can be brutally honest about your outfit, but strangely careful about your loneliness. So she circled the subject in small, irritated comments while pretending she did not care. One evening, while I was making chicken tacos and smiling at a message Daniel had sent from what he claimed was his hotel balcony, Lily leaned against the counter and said, "You know people can fake locations, right?" I looked up too quickly. "What?" She shrugged, but her face was tight. "I'm just saying, Mom, some guy online saying he's in Dubai doesn't mean he's actually in Dubai." I laughed in a way that sounded defensive even to me, then told her Daniel was not some guy, which was a ridiculous thing to say about a man I had never sat across from in the same room. Lily stared at me for a long second, and I could see the fear behind her attitude, the kind of fear a child feels when she realizes her parent is acting less like an adult and more like someone walking toward traffic with her eyes closed. "Have you video called him?" she asked. I hesitated. That hesitation told her everything. "He works crazy hours," I said, "stirring the chicken harder than necessary, and the connection is bad where he is." Lily gave a small, humorless laugh. "Of course it is." I snapped at her then, sharper than I meant to, because her doubt hit too close to the tiny doubt I was already trying to bury. "You don't need to be rude about something you don't understand." The kitchen went quiet after that, except for the sizzling pan and the soft buzz of my phone on the counter. Lily looked hurt, but not surprised, and that hurt me more than if she had yelled. She walked upstairs without eating much dinner, and I told myself she was being dramatic, protective, immature, anything except right. Later that night, Daniel called. I did not tell him about the fight at first, but he sensed something in my voice, or maybe he had already learned how to pull truth out of silence. When I finally admitted Lily was suspicious of him, he went quiet for several seconds, and I remember feeling guilty before he even spoke, as if I had betrayed him by allowing my daughter to question him. "I understand," he said softly, "but please be careful what you share with her, because young people do not understand adult trust, and fear can destroy something beautiful before it has a chance to breathe." That sentence should have alarmed me. Instead, I let it comfort me. He was not asking me to choose between him and my daughter, at least not in words, but he was placing a thin, invisible line between the part of my life that questioned him and the part of my heart that wanted him to be real. By the end of the second week, he started talking about visiting Arizona. He said he had looked up flights from Dubai to Phoenix, said he wanted to take me somewhere quiet, maybe Sedona, because he had seen pictures of the red rocks and imagined walking there with me at sunset. He described it so clearly that I could almost see us there, two tired people standing under a massive orange sky, pretending life had finally become kind after years of taking too much. Then, one night, his voice sounded different. He called later than usual, almost midnight my time, and when I answered, I could hear traffic or wind in the background, along with a muffled voice speaking somewhere behind him. "Daniel?" I said, sitting up in bed. He breathed hard, like he had been walking fast. "I did not want to worry you," he said, "but something happened today." My heart dropped before I knew why. He told me his work access card had been temporarily suspended because of the legal dispute, and until the company released his project bonus, he could not pay the final administrative fee tied to his travel clearance. The phrase sounded official and confusing, which made it harder to challenge. I asked how much it was. He did not answer right away. Then he said my name in a voice so quiet it felt like a hand on my shoulder. "Rebecca, I hate asking this, but I do not know who else I can trust." I stood up from the bed and walked to the window, suddenly aware of my own reflection in the dark glass, a 41-year-old woman in an old T-shirt, holding a phone like it was a lifeline. "How much?" I whispered. There was another pause. $800, he said. "Just until Friday." And before I could respond, before I could ask for documents, before I could think like a mother, a woman, or a person who had already survived one man's lies, Daniel added the sentence that made my blood go cold. "If this is too much for you," he said, "then maybe I misunderstood what we were becoming." The worst part is not that I sent him the $800, because people imagine moments like that as dramatic, with shaking hands and screaming instincts. But the truth is that I made that first transfer while sitting in my quiet bedroom, wearing reading glasses, with a half-empty glass of water beside me, convincing myself that helping someone through a temporary emergency was not foolish, but compassionate. Daniel did not ask me to use a bank wire at first, which somehow made the request feel less dangerous. And he said the administrative office connected to the travel clearance preferred payment through a third-party contact because his own account was frozen during the legal review. I asked why a company in Dubai would need money sent to a woman in Georgia. He sighed softly, not irritated exactly, but wounded in the way that made me feel ashamed for asking. "Rebecca, I know this looks unusual from the outside," he said, "but international contracts are not like paying your electric bill in Arizona, and I would explain every document to you if I were not terrified of involving you in something confidential." That word, confidential, had become a kind of locked door between us, and every time I reached for the handle, he reminded me that opening it might hurt him. So I sent the money through Zelle to a woman named Monica Price, whose email address looked ordinary enough, and when the confirmation appeared on my screen, my stomach twisted so sharply that I almost canceled it, but the transfer had already gone through. Daniel called me less than 2 minutes later. He sounded relieved, emotional, almost breathless, and he said, "You have no idea what you just did for me," in a voice so full of gratitude that I closed my eyes and let myself believe I had not been tricked. I had been trusted. That night, I slept badly. I woke up around 3:17 in the morning with my heart beating too fast, reached for my phone, and found a message from him waiting there like a hand pulling me back into the dream. "I will never forget this, Rebecca. You are not just a woman to me anymore. You are my peace." I read it 3 times, and by the third time, I had almost forgotten the tight feeling in my stomach. Almost. The next morning at work, I made 2 mistakes before lunch, which was unusual for me because the dental office may have been chaotic, but I was good at my job, good at remembering which patient needed pre-authorization, which crown had been denied, which hygienist hated being double-booked, and which insurance company required 3 calls before pretending to care. My manager, Denise, noticed me staring at the same claim form for too long and asked if everything was okay. I told her I had not slept well. That was true, but it was not the whole truth, and by then I was becoming very comfortable giving people small pieces of honesty while hiding the thing that mattered most. Around noon, Daniel messaged me that the payment had been received, but there was a delay because the fee had been applied to the wrong internal file, and he was trying to handle it calmly because losing his temper with officials overseas could make everything worse. I felt the first cold ripple of dread. How can they apply it wrong? I typed. He did not answer for 12 minutes. During those 12 minutes, I sat in the break room with my untouched salad in front of me, listening to Denise talk about her son's baseball game, while my entire body felt like it had left the room and was standing somewhere far away, watching me become a woman I would have warned someone else not to be. When Daniel finally replied, he said, "Please do not panic. I am handling it." But I was already panicking. By the time I got home, Lily was sitting at the kitchen island with her laptop open, and the moment she saw my face, her expression changed. "What happened?" she asked. "Nothing happened. You look weird." "I'm tired." "You're always tired, Mom, but this is different." I hated how well she knew me. I turned away from her and started unloading the dishwasher, even though everything inside was already dry, because I needed something to do with my hands that did not involve checking my phone every 3 seconds. Then my phone buzzed again. "Daniel, can you talk?" I stepped into the laundry room and closed the door, which was such a small act, such a quiet betrayal. But when I think back on that night, I realize that every disaster has tiny hinges. And sometimes a life swings open on something as ordinary as choosing to take a call where your daughter cannot hear you. Daniel's voice was strained. He said the fee problem had been corrected, but because the delay pushed his clearance request into another processing window, they were requiring an additional temporary bond before releasing his travel approval. I pressed my palm against the washing machine and whispered, "No." He went silent. Not angry. Worse than angry. Hurt. "I know," he said slowly, "and I hate myself for even telling you, but if this does not get resolved tonight, I may lose the flight window completely, and then everything I plan to fix between us will be pushed back for weeks." "How much?" I asked, though some part of me already hated the question because asking it meant I had stepped deeper into the room instead of leaving it. 2,400, he said. The number landed so hard that I almost laughed. I told him I did not have that kind of money sitting around because I was a single mother with a mortgage, a car payment, a daughter looking at colleges, and a savings account that existed mostly to make me feel less terrified of emergencies. He said he understood. Then he grew quiet, and in that quiet, I could hear him breathing, and I hated myself for caring that he sounded broken. "I should not have believed this was possible," he said. "What was possible?" "Us." That single word did more damage than a scream would have done. I told him I needed time. He said he had until morning. When I came out of the laundry room, Lily was standing in the hallway, and I knew from the look on her face that she had heard enough to understand there was money involved. "Mom," she said carefully, "please tell me you didn't send him anything." I should have told her the truth. Instead, I said, "This is adult business." Her eyes filled with a kind of anger that was really fear wearing armor. "No, this is scammer business." I snapped again, louder than before, and the moment the words left my mouth, I saw something close in her face. "You don't know him," I said. "And neither do you," she whispered. That should have stopped me. It did not. At 6:42 the next morning, after Daniel sent a message saying he had spent the entire night trying not to lose hope, I moved $2,400 from the college savings account I had opened for Lily when she was 7, transferred it to my checking account, and sent it to Monica Price. I told myself I would replace it before Lily ever knew. I told myself Daniel would pay me back by Friday. I told myself love sometimes required faith. But when I looked at the confirmation screen, I did not feel faithful. I felt hollow. 3 hours later, while I was at work pretending to listen to a patient argue about fluoride, my bank called to ask whether I had authorized 2 unusual transfers to the same recipient. I stepped into the hallway, lowered my voice, and said yes. The woman on the phone paused for a moment too long. Then she said, "Ma'am, are you certain you know this person personally?" I remember looking down at the beige office carpet, at a tiny dark coffee stain near the wall, and realizing I did not know Monica Price personally, I did not know the company personally, I did not know the travel office personally, and maybe, in the only way that truly mattered, I did not know Daniel personally either. But I still said yes. That evening, when I pulled into the driveway, Lily's bedroom light was already on, and through the front window I could see her sitting at the kitchen table with her laptop open, her shoulders stiff, her face pale. And my heart began to pound before I even turned off the engine. When I walked inside, she did not yell. She did not cry. She simply turned the laptop toward me and said, in a voice that sounded far too calm for a 16-year-old girl, "Mom, I found Daniel's picture somewhere else." When Lily turned that laptop toward me, I remember feeling my body go cold before my eyes even focused on the screen, because some part of me already knew that whatever she had found was going to split my life into a before and an after. At first, I saw Daniel's face, the same face I had looked at every morning for 3 weeks, the same silver hair, the same warm smile, the same calm eyes that had made me feel foolishly safe through a glowing rectangle in my hand. But then I saw the name beneath the photo. It was not Daniel Whitmore. It was Richard Hale, a real estate consultant from San Diego, and the photo had been taken from a company website that had nothing to do with Dubai, engineering, contracts, travel clearance, or the man who had whispered my name like he knew where my pain lived. Lily did not speak at first. She just watched me, and somehow that made it worse, because yelling would have given me something to fight against, but her silence forced me to stand there with the truth pressing against my chest. That could be old, I said, and even as the words came out, I hated how desperate they sounded. Lily's face crumpled for half a second, not with weakness, but with the exhaustion of a daughter watching her mother reach for a lie because the truth hurt too badly to hold. "Mom," she said softly. I reverse-searched 3 of his pictures. She clicked another tab. There he was again, standing beside a lake, except this time the image was attached to a LinkedIn profile under a different name, and beneath that, another page showed the same man speaking at a housing conference in California 2 years earlier. Then she clicked again. The photo Daniel had sent me from his supposed hotel balcony in Dubai was not from a hotel at all. It was from a travel blog. I stared at it so long that the kitchen around me seemed to fade, the fridge humming, the dishwasher light blinking, the clock above the pantry ticking in that stupid ordinary way clocks tick while your life quietly collapses. "No," I whispered. Lily reached across the table and touched my wrist, but I pulled away, not because I was angry at her, but because her comfort made the humiliation real. I grabbed my phone and called Daniel. The call rang, then rang again, then went to voicemail. I called through Messenger. Nothing. I sent a message that said, "Who are you?" The message showed as delivered, but not read. I sent another one, my fingers shaking so badly that I misspelled half the words before correcting them. "Answer me right now." Still nothing. Lily stood beside me now, and I could feel her breathing, quick and shallow, like she was trying not to panic because she thought I might fall apart if she did first. Then my phone buzzed. For one impossible second, I thought it was Daniel, and that tiny spark of hope made me feel ashamed before I even looked down. But it was my bank. Another fraud alert. A new attempted payment had been flagged from my checking account, this time for $1,950, to a name I had never seen before. My knees went weak. I sat down hard in the chair, holding the phone with both hands, while Lily leaned over my shoulder and read the alert before I could hide it. "What is that?" she asked. I don't know, but I did know enough. I knew I had sent money to Monica Price, and now someone was trying to pull more money through another account, which meant this was not one confused payment, not one desperate man in a foreign country, not one emergency that had gotten messy and embarrassing. This was bigger. This was organized. This was insanity. I called the bank with Lily standing beside me, and when the fraud specialist answered, her voice was professional, calm, almost too calm, as if she spoke to women like me every day and had learned not to sound shocked because shock made victims feel even smaller. She asked me whether I had recently sent money to someone I had never met in person. I said yes. She asked whether that person had claimed to be overseas, unable to access his own funds, and waiting on travel documents, work payments, or legal clearance. I closed my eyes. Yes. She paused, and in that pause I heard the truth before she said it. Ma'am, she said gently, this pattern is consistent with a romance scam. I pressed my fingers against my mouth because I thought I might be sick. Lily began crying then, silently, tears running down her face while she looked at me like she wanted to be angry, but could not bear to watch me break. The fraud specialist froze my card, locked my online banking, and told me not to send another dollar, not to communicate further, not to believe any refund promise, and not to warn the person that I was reporting anything. Then she asked the question that made shame burn through my whole body. Did you share any personal documents with him? At first, I said no. Then I remembered. 2 nights earlier, Daniel had asked me to confirm my identity for the travel reimbursement form he claimed his company would use to pay me back, and because he had sounded embarrassed. Because he had promised the document would never leave the administrative office. Because I had wanted the money returned before Lily noticed the missing savings. I had sent a photo of my driver's license. I looked at Lily. Her mouth opened slightly, but no sound came out. I sent my license, I whispered. The woman from the bank exhaled through her nose, very quietly, and that tiny sound scared me more than if she had shouted. She told me I needed to place a fraud alert with the credit bureaus, monitor new accounts, file a report, and contact local police. But her words started blurring together because I was no longer thinking about the $800 or the $2,400. I was thinking about my name, my address, my birthday, my signature, my daughter upstairs every night, sleeping in a house whose safety I had handed to a stranger with a stolen face. After the call ended, Lily closed the laptop slowly and said, "We have to call Dad." I flinched. Mark and I did not have the kind of divorce where emergency calls felt safe, and the thought of telling my ex-husband that I had sent money from Lily's college savings to a man from Facebook made my skin crawl with humiliation. No, I said too quickly. Mom, he needs to know if my college money's gone. Those words landed harder than anything Daniel had said. My college money. Not the savings account. Not the emergency transfer. Not the temporary loan I had promised myself I could replace. My daughter's college money. I looked at her then, really looked at her, and for the first time that night, I understood that Daniel had not only stolen from me, he had pulled my child into the blast radius of my loneliness. Before I could answer, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was Daniel, or the man pretending to be Daniel. His message was short, cold, completely different from the soft voice I had trusted. Rebecca, do not do anything stupid. You have no idea what you are involved in. Then a second message came through. It was a photo of my driver's license. When that photo of my driver's license appeared on my screen, I felt something inside me detach from the fantasy completely, because there was no soft misunderstanding left to protect, no business emergency to explain away. No wounded engineer trapped overseas and waiting for my trust like some tragic man in a movie. There was only my face, my address, my date of birth, and the sickening realization that I had handed a stranger the kind of information people use when they want to become you, hurt you, scare you, or keep you quiet. Lily saw the photo before I could turn the phone away. Her eyes moved from the screen to my face, and for 1 second, she did not look like my child, not really, because fear had made her older in a way no mother ever wants to see. Mom, she whispered, he has our address. That was when the room seemed to shrink around me. I looked toward the front window, toward the dark street outside, toward the porch light that suddenly felt useless, and every shadow near the driveway looked like it could become a person. I locked the front door, then the back door. Then I checked the garage entrance, even though I knew it was locked, because panic does not care what you know. It only cares what it can make you imagine. My phone buzzed again. Do not block me, he wrote. You made promises, Rebecca. The way he used my name now was different, stripped of warmth, almost mocking, like he had pulled off the mask and wanted me to understand that the tenderness had always been a tool. Lily said, call Dad. I shook my head before she even finished speaking, because pride is a stupid thing, But in that moment, it felt like the last piece of dignity I still owned. I can handle this. No, you can't, she said, and her voice cracked so badly that it cut straight through me. You sent my money to a fake man, and now he has your ID. I flinched like she had slapped me. Not because she was wrong. Because she was finally saying the thing I had been too ashamed to say out loud. I had sent her money. I had risked our safety. I had chosen secrecy over the one person in my house who had been trying to protect me. I sat down at the kitchen table, pressed my hands flat against the wood, and forced myself to breathe slowly, because I could feel myself standing at the edge of either collapsing completely or doing the first responsible thing I had done in weeks. Okay, I said. Call him. Lily grabbed her phone so quickly that I realized she had probably wanted to call Mark hours ago and had held back only because some loyal part of her was still trying to let me be her mother. When Mark answered, Lily did not explain much. She just said, Dad, you need to come over. It's serious. I heard his voice through the speaker, sharper than usual, asking if she was hurt, if someone was there, if I was there, and when Lily looked at me, I nodded because there was no more room for lies. She got scammed, Lily said, and then her voice broke. And they have her driver's license. Mark arrived in 12 minutes. I know because I watched every minute pass on the microwave clock, while Daniel kept sending messages that shifted from threats to pleading and back again, as if several different people were taking turns behind the same stolen face. One message said, I can explain if you stop panicking. Another said, you are putting yourself in danger. Then, almost laughably, another one said, my love, please do not let fear destroy us. That last one made something harden in me. Not strength exactly. Not yet. More like disgust finally pushing through the fog. When Mark walked in, he looked at Lily first, then at me, and I saw the judgment flash across his face before he managed to hide it. He had always been good at that, hiding just enough cruelty to make me question whether I had imagined the rest. What happened? He asked. I tried to explain, but the words came out in broken pieces, and every sentence made me sound worse, more reckless, more lonely, more foolish, until finally I stopped trying to make myself look reasonable and told the truth exactly as it was. I believed him, I said. I sent him money. I sent him my license. I took some from Lily's college account because I thought he was paying me back. Mark stared at me. Lily turned away. The silence that followed was so heavy that I wished Mark would yell, because yelling would have been easier than watching disappointment settle over my daughter's shoulders. How much? He asked. 3,200, I whispered. His jaw tightened. From her account? 2,400. He looked like he wanted to say something brutal, and maybe I deserved it, but then Lily made a small sound behind him, and he swallowed whatever had been rising in his throat. Okay, he said, colder than comfort, but calmer than rage. We report it. Now. The police officer who came to the house was younger than I expected, with tired eyes and a patient voice that told me this was not the first time he had sat across from someone who had been manipulated through a phone. He did not laugh. He did not call me stupid. He asked questions, wrote down names, took screenshots, documented the Zelle transfers, the messages, the fake profile, the driver's license threat, and every account connected to Monica Price. When I apologized for wasting his time, he looked up from his tablet and said, You are not wasting anyone's time, ma'am. These people do this professionally. That sentence should have comforted me, but instead it made me feel worse, because professionally meant I had not been loved by accident. I had been targeted on purpose. After the officer left, Mark took Lily upstairs to help her calm down, and I stayed alone in the kitchen with my phone, my frozen bank account, and a silence so thick it felt like punishment. Daniel had stopped messaging. For almost an hour, there was nothing. No threats. No apologies. No fake tenderness. Just silence. And in that silence, my mind replayed everything I had ignored. Lily's questions, the missed video calls, the strange payment names, the too perfect messages, the way he had made secrecy feel like loyalty and doubt feel like betrayal. I opened our conversation and scrolled back to the beginning. There it was. You seem like someone with a kind heart. I almost threw the phone across the room. Instead, I started taking screenshots of everything, Even the sweet messages, especially the sweet messages, because I needed to remind myself that the trap had not looked ugly at first. It had looked like comfort. It had looked like patience. It had looked like someone finally seeing me. Around midnight, after Lily had cried herself to sleep and Mark had left with a promise to come back in the morning to deal with the bank, I sat on the couch under a blanket I did not feel, staring at the front door like fear might walk through it if I blinked. Then my phone lit up again. A new Facebook message. Not from Daniel Whitmore. From a woman named Claire Bennett, whose profile photo showed a tired-looking woman about my age, standing beside a Christmas tree with two little boys. Her message was only one sentence. Did he tell you his name was Daniel too? When I read Claire Bennett's message, I did not answer right away, because some exhausted, humiliated part of me still wanted to believe that my nightmare was private, that maybe I had fallen for one cruel man, one stolen face, one terrible mistake that could be contained inside my own kitchen and eventually buried under time. But Claire's question sat there glowing on my screen like proof that the story had never belonged only to me. Did he tell you his name was Daniel too? I clicked her profile with my heart pounding so hard it made my throat ache, and what I found did not look like some fake account created 5 minutes earlier, but a real woman in Missouri, a widow according to one old post, with 2 young sons, a tired smile, and a life that looked so painfully ordinary that I felt something inside me soften before I had even typed a word. Finally, I wrote back, yes. The 3 dots appeared almost instantly. Then she sent, do not send him anything else. I stared at those words and felt my eyes burn, because they were the same words my daughter had tried to say in every possible way, only now they were coming from a stranger who sounded like she had already walked through the fire I was just beginning to smell. Claire asked if he had used the Dubai story, the travel clearance story, the frozen account story, and the line about not wanting fear to destroy something beautiful, and with every detail she named, I felt the last pieces of my denial fall away. He had not improvised with me. He had performed. He had used a script polished by other women's pain. Claire told me she had lost almost $9,000 over 6 months, first in small payments, then in larger emergencies, then in gift cards and wire transfers she still felt too ashamed to explain to anyone in her family. She said he had called himself Daniel Whitmore with her too, but before that he had been Aaron Mills, and before that, according to another woman in a private support group, he had used the name Thomas Reed while pretending to be a contractor trapped in Qatar. I read her messages while sitting on the couch in the dark with my knees pulled to my chest, feeling the awful comfort of not being alone mixed with the heavier horror of realizing how many lives one fake man had entered through the same open wound. Then Claire sent me a screenshot. It was Daniel's face, the same stolen face from my messages, but beneath it was a long thread of women comparing names, payment accounts, phone numbers, fake documents, and emotional lines he had repeated like prayers meant to unlock lonely hearts. One woman had sold jewelry. Another had borrowed from her sister. Another had sent money from a disability check because he promised he would marry her once he returned to the States. I pressed my hand over my mouth and started crying so quietly that I barely made a sound. Not because I was the most hurt, because I was not. Because my shame, which had felt massive and singular, was suddenly part of a machine that had been built to find women who were tired, trusting, grieving, divorced, widowed, overworked, embarrassed by their loneliness, and still decent enough to believe that kindness deserved kindness back. Claire asked me if he had my personal information. I told her about my driver's license. Her reply came fast. Freeze your credit tonight. All 3 bureaus. Do it before you sleep. I wanted to tell her I was too tired, that my brain had stopped working, that I could not remember passwords or security questions or which website was real and which one might steal more from me, but then I looked toward the stairs, where Lily was sleeping after crying because of something I had done, and I forced myself to sit up. For the next 2 hours, Claire guided me through what she had already learned the hard way. I froze my credit. I changed passwords. I turned on 2-factor authentication. I reported the fake profile. I filed the online fraud report the officer had mentioned, and even though every form made me feel exposed, Every confirmation number felt like one small board nailed across a door I had left wide open. Around 2 in the morning, Mark came downstairs because he had apparently stayed in the guest room after Lily begged him not to leave, and when he saw me hunched over my laptop with red eyes and shaking hands, his face changed. For once, he did not look smug. He looked scared. "What are you doing?" he asked. "Trying to stop it from getting worse." He stood behind the chair and watched the screen for a moment, reading the support group messages, the repeated scripts, the names, the payment accounts, the women who sounded like me in different states with different children and different broken places. Then he said quietly, "Rebecca, this is bigger than some guy." I nodded, but I did not look at him, because if I looked at him kindly for even 1 second, I was afraid I might collapse into the comfort of being forgiven before I had earned the right to forgive myself. By morning, Lily came downstairs in sweatpants, her hair tangled from restless sleep, and the first thing she did was check my face, as if she needed to know whether her mother had come back to herself overnight. I froze my credit, I told her before she asked. Her eyes filled, but she blinked fast and looked away. "Good. I also reported everything, and your dad is going to help me call the bank again." She nodded. For a second, I thought she might hug me. She did not. And honestly, I understood. Trust does not return just because the danger is finally named. After breakfast, Mark drove us to the bank, where I sat across from a fraud specialist and explained every transfer, every message, every warning I had ignored. While Lily sat beside me with her arms crossed so tightly it looked like she was holding herself together. The specialist was kind, but kindness did not change the facts. The first $800 was gone. The $2,400 from Lily's college account was probably gone too. There was a chance, she said, but it was small because I had authorized the transfers myself. That word, authorized, made me feel sick. Because technically, yes, I had clicked the buttons. But emotionally, I had been pushed down a hallway built from fear, affection, secrecy, guilt, and the promise of being chosen. When we walked back to the parking lot, the Arizona sun was already harsh, and Lily stopped beside the car without opening the door. "I don't care about the money as much as you think," she said. I turned toward her, stunned. She looked at the pavement, not at me. "I care that you lied to me." Those words hurt more than the bank's answer. I wanted to defend myself, to say I was embarrassed, confused, manipulated, lonely, and scared, but all of that was true and none of it changed what she had lived through. So I said the only thing I could say without making it smaller. "I know." That evening, Claire called me through Messenger, and when I heard her voice for the first time, tired and gentle and slightly raspy, I felt like I was speaking to a version of myself from a few miles farther down the road. She told me the support group was gathering evidence for an investigator who had been tracking several accounts tied to the same payment network, including the name Monica Price. Then she paused. "Rebecca," she said, "there is something else." My stomach tightened. She told me Monica Price might not be a fake name. She might be another woman, another victim. Someone the scammers had turned into a money mule without her fully understanding what she was doing. I thought about the email address, the transfers, the way I had pictured Monica as part of the evil, and suddenly the whole thing felt even more twisted. Then Claire sent me one final screenshot. It was a recent message from an account using Daniel's stolen photo, sent to another woman just 2 days earlier. The message said, "I met a woman in Arizona who nearly ruined everything, but you are different." And beneath it, in the same thread, was a photo I had never sent him. A picture of me and Lily standing in front of our house. When I saw that photo of Lily and me standing in front of our house, I felt a fear so sharp and physical that for a few seconds I could not understand where my body ended and the panic began, because this was no longer only about money, stolen pictures, fake romance, or some cruel script used on lonely women in quiet kitchens across the country. This was my daughter. This was our home. This was the one place I had promised myself would always remain safe after the divorce, after the fighting, after the nights Lily pretended not to hear me crying in the bathroom, after all the small ways I had tried to rebuild a peaceful life from the wreckage of one that had taught both of us to flinch. I stared at the picture until the edges blurred, and then I realized where it had come from. It was from Lily's 16th birthday post. I had uploaded it 3 months earlier, proud and emotional, writing some long caption about how I could not believe my baby girl was almost grown, and in the background, without me even noticing it, our house number was visible beside the front door. I had given them the address twice. Once through my license, once through my own pride. That realization made me stand up so fast my chair scraped against the tile, and Lily looked at me from the couch with the guarded expression she had been wearing all day, like she loved me too much to look away, but trusted me too little to relax. "What?" she asked. I did not want to tell her. For 1 weak second, I wanted to soften it, hide it, make it sound less serious than it was, because I had already scared her enough and some broken maternal instinct in me still believed protection meant controlling which parts of the truth she had to carry. But lies had brought us here. So I turned the laptop toward her. She looked at the screenshot, and I watched the color drain from her face. "That's from my birthday," she whispered. "I know. They know what I look like." I swallowed hard. Yes, they know where we live. I could not answer quickly, because every answer felt like another stone placed on her chest, but she did not need me to say it anyway, because she had already understood. Mark called the police again, and this time his voice was not cold or judgmental, but tight with the kind of fear parents share when the danger has moved from embarrassing to intimate. The officer who had come before was not on duty, so another one came, older this time, with gray in his beard and a way of looking around the house that made the walls feel thinner. He told us the photo might have been used only as intimidation, because scammers often tried to scare victims into silence once they realized reports were being filed, but he also told us to take it seriously, because the people behind these schemes could be anywhere, and the accounts they used did not always reveal who was actually pulling the strings. That was supposed to be practical. It did not feel practical. It felt like being told the monster might be imaginary, might be across the ocean, might be in another state, or might be parked somewhere outside under a dark Arizona sky. We changed the locks that afternoon. Mark installed a doorbell camera before dinner. Lily and I removed public posts from my Facebook, locked down our profiles, changed our profile pictures, and deleted anything that showed our neighborhood, her school name, my workplace, or the front of our house. Every click felt like cleaning blood from the floor after pretending there had never been a wound. Claire stayed with me through most of it, sending short messages every hour, not the fake sweetness Daniel had used, but steady, useful, human things that did not ask anything from me except that I keep moving. Document everything. Do not answer unknown numbers. Screenshot before blocking. Do not let shame make you isolate. That last one stayed with me. Do not let shame make you isolate. Because shame had been Daniel's best accomplice from the very beginning. Shame had kept me from telling Lily about the messages. Shame had made me hide in the laundry room. Shame had convinced me that asking too many questions would make me look damaged. Shame had made me protect the lie longer than I protected myself. The next morning, I went to work because I did not know what else to do, and because when your life falls apart, the world still expects you to answer phones, confirm appointments, and smile at people who are angry about dental insurance. I sat at the front desk with my coffee going cold beside me, trying to sound normal while my phone kept lighting up with unknown numbers I refused to answer. Around 11, Denise walked over and closed the little glass window between the reception area and the waiting room. "You look like hell," she said. Normally, I would have laughed it off. Instead, I said, "I need to tell you something." The words came out slowly at first, then faster, and before I knew it, I had told her almost everything, not every humiliating detail, but enough to make my hands shake and my voice crack near the end. Denise did not make the face I expected. She did not look disgusted. She did not ask how I could be so stupid. She leaned against the counter, folded her arms, and said, "My sister almost lost $12,000 to a military romance scam after her husband died." I stared at her. She never told anyone outside the family, Denise continued, because she thought people would laugh, and that shame almost made her send more. It was the first time I truly understood that silence was not privacy. Silence was how the trap kept breathing. By lunch, Denise had helped me speak to HR because my driver's license had my home address, but Daniel also knew where I worked from weeks of casual conversation I had treated as intimacy. The clinic changed how calls were screened. They told the front desk not to confirm my schedule to anyone. They walked me to my car after closing, and although the kindness embarrassed me, it also reminded me that safety sometimes begins the moment you stop pretending you are fine. That evening, when I got home, Lily was sitting on the porch steps with Mark, watching him adjust the camera angle near the garage. She looked up when I parked, and for the first time in 2 days, she did not look away immediately. "I made a list," she said when I walked over. "What kind of list?" "Everything we still need to fix." She handed me a notebook page covered in her neat, serious handwriting, and the sight of it nearly broke me, because my 16-year-old daughter had turned terror into a checklist while I was still learning how to stand inside my own consequences. Freeze credit. Change passwords. Call college savings account. Report fake profile again. Save screenshots to cloud. No posting locations. New security questions. Counseling? The last word had a question mark beside it. I looked at her and my throat tightened. "For you?" I asked. She shrugged, but her chin trembled. "For both of us, maybe." I wanted to hug her then, but I did not move, because I had finally learned that wanting comfort from someone you hurt is not the same as earning closeness back. So I said, "I think that's a good idea." That night, after Lily went upstairs and Mark left, I sat at the kitchen table with the notebook page in front of me and opened one final message from Claire. She had sent me a link to the private support group, along with a note that said several women were preparing to send a full evidence packet to a federal cybercrime contact through a local victim advocate. Then she wrote, "You should add your screenshots, especially the threat with your license and the photo of your house." My first instinct was fear. My second was shame. My third, quieter but stronger, was anger. Not wild anger. Not the kind that makes you reckless. The clean kind. The kind that arrives when you finally understand that embarrassment is not a reason to let someone keep hurting people. So I uploaded everything. The sweet messages. The threats. The payment records. The stolen photos. The driver's license screenshot. The picture of Lily and me. When I finished, I sat back and cried, not because I felt weak, but because for the first time since this began, I had done something that moved the danger away from secrecy and into light. The next morning, I woke to a voicemail from an unknown number. I almost deleted it. Then I heard the first 3 seconds. It was not Daniel's voice. It was a woman's voice, shaking so badly she could barely speak. "Rebecca, my name is Monica Price," she said. "Please don't hang up when I call again, because I think they used my account, and now they're threatening my children too." When I heard Monica Price's voice on that voicemail, trembling through my phone like someone speaking from the edge of her own disaster, I realized the woman I had quietly hated for days might not have been the villain in my story. But another doorway the scammers had forced open. I stood in the kitchen with my coffee untouched, listening to the message twice, while Lily sat across from me with her cereal going soggy, and Mark stood near the back door with that stiff, protective look he had worn since the photo of our house appeared. Monica called again 10 minutes later. This time I answered. For a few seconds, neither of us spoke, and the silence between us felt strange and heavy, because both of us knew that money had passed through her name. My daughter's savings had been damaged, and yet somehow we were both scared of the same invisible people. She said she lived outside Atlanta, worked part-time from home after her youngest son was diagnosed with epilepsy, and believed she had been hired as a remote payment assistant for an overseas engineering consultant who needed help processing vendor reimbursements while his company account was restricted. His name, to her, had not been Daniel. It had been Mr. Whitmore. That detail made my skin crawl. He had made himself my almost lover and her almost boss, changing the mask just enough to fit the weakness he had found in each of us. Monica said she had received payments from several women and forwarded most of the money through cryptocurrency kiosks, gift cards, and wire services. Because she had been told delays would cost the company a major contract and that her job depended on speed and discretion. Then her voice broke. When I started asking questions, they sent me a picture of my boys leaving school. Lily looked up sharply when I repeated that part out loud, and for the first time since everything had exploded, I saw something shift in her face. Not forgiveness exactly, but recognition that the fear had spread farther than our own front door. Monica cried while she explained that she had already spoken to police, but she was terrified they would treat her like part of the scam instead of someone trapped inside it, and I hated the fact that I understood that fear better than I wanted to. For weeks, shame had made me look guilty even to myself. Now I could hear it in another woman. That morning became the first time I stopped asking, how could I have been so stupid, and started asking, how many people did they build this around? By noon, Claire had connected Monica, me, and 3 other women to the victim advocate who was helping organize the evidence packet, and as strange as it sounds, the first real breath I took in weeks happened while I was uploading screenshots into a shared folder with women I had never met. There was the woman in Missouri who lost $9,000 after her husband died. There was a nurse in Florida who had nearly sent her tax refund. There was a retired teacher in Oregon who had blocked him the moment he asked for gift cards, then spent months wondering if she had been too suspicious. And there was me, Rebecca Hale from Mesa, Arizona, who had mistaken secrecy for intimacy and urgency for love. We did not become heroes. I need to be clear about that. There was no dramatic arrest on my front lawn, no cinematic scene where Daniel's Real face appeared on the evening news, no perfect justice that returned every dollar and erased the look in Lily's eyes when she found that stolen photo. Real life is not that clean. The accounts were reported. Some profiles disappeared. A fraud investigator contacted me twice. Monica's bank account was frozen while they reviewed her case. The $800 never came back, and the $2,400 from Lily's college account stayed gone long enough for me to feel its absence every time college brochures arrived in the mail. But something else happened slowly, painfully, and maybe more honestly than revenge. I stopped hiding. I told my sister. I told Denise. I told the therapist Lily, and I started seeing every Thursday evening after work, where I had to sit 3 feet away from my own daughter and hear her say that she had felt like the adult in the house while I chased a fantasy on my phone. That sentence broke me. Not loudly. Not dramatically. It broke me in the quiet way truth does when it finally gets past your excuses. I apologized to her without explaining myself first, because I had learned that explanations can become another kind of escape when the person you hurt is still standing in the wreckage. I told her she had been right. I told her I should have listened. I told her the money mattered, but the lying mattered more, and I would spend however long it took proving that I understood the difference. For the next year, I picked up Saturday shifts at the clinic, cut every unnecessary expense, sold the treadmill I never used, canceled subscriptions I had forgotten existed, and rebuilt Lily's college savings in pieces so small they would have embarrassed me before. $50, $75, $120 when overtime was good. Each deposit felt less like money and more like a sentence I was writing with my life. I will not make my daughter pay forever for a mistake I made in a lonely season. Lily did not forgive me all at once. She should not have had to. Some nights she was warm, almost normal, telling me about school and laughing at videos on her phone, and other nights one small thing would bring the anger back, especially if I checked a notification too quickly or went quiet while typing. Trust returned like Arizona rain. Rare, uneven, precious when it finally came. Months later, after the worst of the fear had loosened, I received a Facebook friend request from a man whose profile picture showed a gray-haired widower standing near the ocean. His message said, "You seem like a woman with a kind heart." I stared at those words for a long time. My hands did not shake this time. My heart did not leap. The lonely part of me still existed because healing did not turn me into stone, and some nights I still missed being held, missed being chosen, missed hearing someone say my name like it meant home. But this time, I took a screenshot, reported the profile, blocked the account, and walked upstairs to Lily's room. She was studying on her bed with flashcards spread around her, and when I told her what had happened, she looked at me carefully, searching my face for the woman who had once defended a stranger over her own child. Then she nodded. Good, she said. It was one word, but it felt like a door opening. A year and a half after Daniel's first message, Lily left for college with most of her savings rebuilt and a little more caution in her eyes than I wished she needed at 18. On the morning we loaded her boxes into Mark's SUV, she hugged me in the driveway, right under the house number I had once accidentally exposed to people who wanted to use us. I'm still mad sometimes, she whispered. I know, I said, but I'm proud of you too. I held her tighter, not because I deserved those words, but because I understood what they had cost her to say. I still do not know who Daniel really was. Maybe he was one man. Maybe he was 5 people in a room somewhere, passing scripts between them, studying lonely women the way thieves study locks. What I do know is that he did not steal from me only because I was foolish. He stole from me because I was human, tired, hopeful, and ashamed of needing tenderness. And that is the part one wish someone had told me sooner. The danger was never that I wanted love. The danger was that I let someone turn my need for love into a secret.